Hey you, welcome back to Eating Well. I'm so glad that you're here. Hey, today we have a guest. It's my husband Tad.
Hi, in this video we're going to talk about 5 budgeting hacks that we've used to pay off thousands of dollars of debt and still save money and still have a little bit of fun. So let's get into it.
Woo! So before we dive into tip number 1, I also want to mention real quick that these aren't just tips, these are also, it's the chronological way that we handle our money the moment it comes into our account. So if you want to take notes real quick, this is how we divvy out our money in a chronological order when it hits our account. So number 1, we give first. So this is something that we really value in our marriage, we value as Christians and believers, and we value as members of society. And so as Christians, we give 10% to the church. Now, if you're not a believer, that's okay. We also think that it's great to just have a generous heart. And so if you want to pick an organization that you really care about or a cause that is really special to your heart, we believe that when we receive, it's really good to give. And so whatever organization blesses your heart or something that you're passionate about, that would be really, really good to give to as well.
And we as Christians believe in at least 10%. Some people give more, but we also believe in just giving whatever you can. So whether you believe in Christianity or not, you can just choose to give, but we believe giving first is the right thing to do. Be on camera now, because you got in trouble. Alright, tip number 2 is pay your expenses. So the next thing that we do with our money is just pay our rent and the things that we need to still live. So this doesn't include any of our subscriptions, any of our food that we eat out, or fun that we have with our friends or anything like that. This is purely just the things that we need to live. So car insurance,
Rent, utilities,
everything like that.
Tip number 3, talking about savings. So we kind of follow Dave Ramsey on this. If you don't know who Dave Ramsey is, he's a big financial guy, talks about saving. A big part of savings is getting an emergency savings. And so what an emergency savings is a savings that you pour into and get at least 3 months minimum expenses. So basically what that means is getting, if you were to get fired from a job and you had to live off of just savings, you could live for 3 months according to your expenses. So getting that savings rolling is really important because it can also pay for car issues, it can pay for medical bills, things that obviously pop up in life that you don't really expect. And so getting an emergency savings is super crucial so you don't have to dip into other expenses or money that goes into bills or fun or groceries, all that kind of stuff.
So in addition to savings, you may want to look into the far distant future of retirement. So unless you have a job that you're in that you are either building up into a pension or you work at a school and your district has some retirement plan for you, I would definitely start trying to save at least 5%, if not 10% of your gross paycheck into either what's called an IRA, which is an independent retirement account. And that will just sit there and you can let it sit there forever. You could put, maybe you only ever put $1,000 in there, and it will sit there. If you're 20 years old, 21, it'll sit there for 40 years or 45, whenever you retire. You will have so much money from it just sitting there. And that could be in addition to if you're relying on Social Security, or if you already have a retirement option, it could be a supplement for when you're retired. So you could be taking crazy vacations, traveling the world when you're older. So we believe in building your emergency savings first. So once you have that, maybe your 3 months expenses is maybe like $3,000 or $5,000. Once you have that, then you start putting into just your regular savings. So the gross amount of your paycheck is what you actually get paid first, and then everything that gets taken out of it, so like taxes from the state and federal taxes and Social Security and all those things, get taken out, and then you have your net amount, which is what comes into your bank account. So if you don't know what that is, go look at your pay stub or whatever, and it will show you your gross amount that you get paid. So once you start seeing the amount in your savings account after you've saved for a few months, you'll really start to want to protect that money. You start gaining pride over how much that you've accumulated because of your own discipline, and it becomes a lot more fun to save, and you want to save a lot more and do whatever you can to save that money. All right, tip number 4.
Wait, I wasn't looking up.
Oh, sorry. I did this anyway. All right, tip number 4 is debt. So we've had quite a bit of debt in our past from school and cars and everything like that. So
My ring.
Eden's ring, yes. So the reason that debt is number 4 is we believe in kind of paying ourselves first before we pay our debtors. So we like to save whatever we can before we have to pay into debt. And it kind of gives us a little bit of motivation to do whatever we can to make up, if there's any deficit for the month or whatever it is, to make up that money to pay off that debt.
So you probably clicked on this video because you're in your 20s, or you're just curious as to what we do with our finances. But if you are in your 20s, you probably have student debt like I do. So the reason why it's so important to really get on top of your debt, especially with school debt, is because it accrues interest. I keep saying that word wrong. It accrues interest, and so basically means it just keeps racking up interest the longer you don't pay it off. Now this doesn't mean you have to go crazy and kill yourself to get rid of the debt, but if you do happen to find yourself pouring a lot of money into your savings and you realize, oh, there's some more left over that I can put even more into debt, at least your school debt, that's a really good option because then you get ahead of that interest that will build up as time goes on. Last and final tip, tip number 5, fun! Woohoo! So fun is you're eating out, all your subscriptions like Netflix and Spotify. This is stuff that you want to save up for, all the extra things that are outside of the really boring, lame stuff.
So in your 20s, hanging out with your friends is a pretty big deal, especially if you're single, you're trying to like meet a ton of people and...
A girl?
Yeah. You're trying to meet girls or boys, whichever way you go. Eating out is a huge part of that. But if you are dedicated to saving or paying off debt, you may really want to consider how much you go out and spend money on eating out, because it can be a few $100s a month that could be going into debt or savings, or thousands of dollars a month, you know? It can really rack up. But if you do have to go out with friends, you know, you don't always have to get a alcoholic beverage or the most expensive meal or whatever. If you do want an alcoholic beverage, if that's your thing, then maybe you can just, you know, buy a 6-pack at home and just enjoy some water with your meal. We've seen plenty of friends do this when we eat out with them. They'll grab a beer and it's like, dude, like, we know that you have beer at home, just go drink the beer that you have at home instead, and you would save at least $5 per drink, right? They do that multiple times a week.
Or your Starbucks coffee. Starbucks is like $5 a drink. It's insane. And so you get one every day and you're $30 deep, and that can all, you know, accumulate to a lot of money, especially over a month. So it adds up.
So with this fun money, that also includes some gas if you are traveling for fun with friends, doing fun trips or whatever. That gas money doesn't get rolled up into your expenses category. That's fun money that you're spending on gas because you're doing something fun. So we've used all of these tips to pay off a lot of debt that we've had. So I bought a car that I had a $10,000 loan on before we got married, and I was able to pay off most of that before we were married, and using these techniques. Now, after we got married, we had a little bit of debt with our rings and some debt with a car that we got for Eden because we wanted her to have a nicer car that was safer than the one that was breaking down on her. With that, we also had her student debt, and so we have been able to pay off the car, and we are still working on her student debt, but we've been able to pay off a significant amount of that. And we've been able to have some savings as well. We have emergency savings at the very least, as well as a little bit in our savings account.
Because the next stop is a house.
Next stop is a house, yeah.
But overall, we've probably gotten rid of, I don't know, what would you say, $30,000 of debt?
Yep, we probably paid off
in 2 years.
Yeah, in 2 years. Now, some of that does have to do with, I do have a very good job.
But if you buy things in your means, then you can still do the same thing.
So maybe that sounds like a lot of money to you, but with my job, you know, that we've been able to scale how much debt and savings that we've been able to handle. But we've been able to follow these same practices when we've had lower incomes. We've paid, when I first had my car that I got, I had a pretty low paying job, and I was still able to pay off more than half of that before we got married.
So, bottom line, these tips will help you reach your financial goals. We've used them and it's been proven to help you reach your financial goals and to be free from the burdens of debt and all that good jazz, and help you still live a really, really fun life. So thank you so much for popping in. Hey, I have a new handle on my personal Instagram. So some of you probably know I passed my CNC, my Certified Nutrition Coach certification, or whatever it's called. So it's Scritch_fit. And then if you're new here, you can hop onto Eden_well, and that's all biblical encouraging content for you. Thank you guys so much for joining today. I hope these tips really, really helped. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out or to comment or message me. We are more than happy to talk to you guys personally, one-on-one, about any of this stuff, anything that we do. We're really open about it. So thanks for tuning in, and we will see you next week. Bye! Good job, Benny.